Tom Brady and Mike Evans. You have my attention, I guess. Coming into this game, the Bucs, excuse me. I'm confusing the Packers and the Bucs.
Same thing.
Two teams that we're here again somehow.
Come from the same cloth. Coming
into this game, the Bucs had completed 2 passes of 30+ air yards.
Thank you for looking that up. Thank you for looking this up. Thank you.
2 on the season.
Okay.
Today, they had 3 that went for touchdowns to Mike Evans.
Of course they did. They did.
That is how inexplicable and strange this game felt, even in the moment. I think there are reasons that this happened. You look at the way the early part of the game went for Carolina's defense. Carolina decimated a corner. They have to go sign Josh Norman off the street. They got Keith Taylor and CJ Henderson as their only 2 guys. The Jeremy Chin's in the slot, which had an impact on this game that we can talk about. And early on, a couple underneath completions to Mike Evans. Come back on the left side, dig on the right side. And I think over the course of the game, that has an impact to the point that CJ Henderson and Taylor, both of whom got burned at different points in the game, aren't sure what to do out there. They don't want to give up another underneath completion. And so 2 times in this game, he just runs right by him for touchdowns. And when you have uncertainty at corner and you have a couple of those early completions, I think that is the end result ultimately. And Mike Evans and Tom Brady can still do this. They haven't done it much this year, but they are still capable of doing this.
Been waiting for it all year. And then finally in one game, it just explodes. All go routes, nothing. It's hilarious. It was like a high school offense where it's just like, hey, we have the D1 receiver and you don't. It was the 3 touchdowns is 989 versus quarters. Just took the 1-on-1 versus Keith Taylor. Who's Keith Taylor? Yeah, that's exactly what Tom Brady and Mike Evans were doing too. Oh, this guy. Go route versus quarters. Took the 1-on-1 again. So that's 2 of them. Then cover 0. Bucs wadded up with 7-man protection. Evans runs right by CJ Henderson. Just simple. Just blocked it up and took 3 1-on-1 go balls. Football can be really easy sometimes. But this was the one thing that was interesting with the Bucs. And this is where health definitely does help for having Wirfs and Donovan Smith for the first time again.
You could feel it. I mean, you could feel such a difference.
Oh yeah. And just even the receivers. So that's the first time Wirfs and Smith have been on the field together since week 12. And then they've first time all these receivers with Russell Gage truly healthy, Julio Jones feels like he has a new injury every week, but somewhat healthy. But that's a big difference.
He had an explosive run today. He made an impact on the game.
They love the reverses to him. And
Gage had a huge 3rd down conversion. I mean, they all showed up. They all had their moments in this game.
And but going 4 deep at receiver, and when your number 4 receiver is freaking Julio Jones, that's pretty fun. But this is their best game out of 11 personnel the entire year. They had 7 explosive passes this entire day. I think all of them were out of 11 personnel. They average 0.4 EPA per dropback out of 11 personnel. Just frame of reference, Mahomes leads the league at 0.3 or 0.29 right now. So better than Mahomes when they were in 3 wide receivers. But easily their best game. And what also that helps, this is the trickle down. This is not just the gravity of one receiver and cloud coverage. This is having so much heat down the field that if you notice, all the checkdowns had a little bit more breathing room today. Rashad White and the Cade Ottens and Lenny Fournette checkdowns, because the intermediate defenders had to actually push back and guard stuff down the field. So Tom Brady could actually hit his patented checkdowns underneath. So that really helped. They had some nice change ups where coming off flat looks and all that. Todd Bowles was aggressive on 4th and 2 in the 3rd quarter. And that stunned me that all of a sudden he's going for it on 4th down. So yeah, just this Bucs team I've been waiting to have some signs of life. Had a little bit. They moved a couple fingers today.
So, and obviously the improvements on offense are the reason they won this game, but they still needed a couple breaks. They still needed a couple Darnold interception down the field. And that's what we talked about coming into this game was the 2 elements of the Carolina winning. It was twofold that we said on Thursday. Can they win up front the way that they did last week? Mm-hmm. And can they avoid the huge mistakes that they have avoided since Darnold came back? The answer to the first question was no. They averaged negative 0.35 EPA per rush in this game, which was 2nd worst in the week so far. The only team that was worse was the Texans. Okay. They averaged about 1 yard before contact per rush. Let me get the exact number, 1.27. They went 22 carries for 74 yards on the game. We did not mention this on Thursday, mistake by us. Vita Vea had missed the last couple games for Tampa, and he was back. So I think that was that made an impact on the running game, and they did not run the ball that consistently. And then you had a couple Darnold turnovers. So that factor when Carolina was on offense and the Bucs being able to push the ball downfield on defense, those are the two biggest influences on the game.
Absolutely. I mean, turn on some sick throws, but yeah, that's the turnovers. Yeah, like,
It was all about the downside with them at this
yes,
point. There was no
yes.
downside over the last month as
Well,
they little run.
Exactly. The running it keeps the boat, it keeps it afloat. That's what running the ball is able to do. It just lets you stay on schedule. I know people want to make fun of that and say, like, oh, you're only trying to stay on schedule. It's like, yeah, but because when everything else bottoms out or you do turn the ball over, it lets you just sustain. It just keeps you effective. The other stat I came across, and this is becoming kind of a bit of a point of discussion, is Brady and no huddle. The Bucs have the 4th highest rate this year of no huddle snaps, which I actually didn't know was that high. When Brady's huddling, when Tom Brady's huddling, or the Bucs are huddling, not just Tom Brady, but all 11 Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive players are huddling. They're 20th in the NFL, his success rate, 43.8%. When they go no huddle, and they're the 4th highest rate, 54%, which is better than Mahomes. So it's loosen this offense.
I'm glad
up.
you found that stat, because I was trying to look it up in 2 minutes because that's when it felt different to me. But no huddle is a more accurate representation.
They need to sprinkle in throughout the game. I think it just makes it simpler for them and just make it like cleaner. As I think they're trying to get these like very convoluted looks that, and it's like for a 6-yard gain where Chris Godwin's getting clotheslined. It's like, like just loosen it up and throw some stuff on the outside, throw some high lows over the middle and all that. But I think a lot of this discussion is about just like this offense just needs to loosen up. And I think having the speed at receiver helps, having offensive line getting a little healthier, having Wirfs back, of course, always helps. But just overall, I think streamlining it in a little bit in a way, which is sounds counterintuitive, but I do think that'll benefit you because the receivers are good and Tom Brady can still make some throws.
One thing with the Bucs on offense in this game that I did want to mention, Jeremy Chin was playing in the slot because of where the Panthers are at corner. Before 2 of those go balls to Mike Evans, Chris Godwin had completions while working against Jeremy Chin on 2nd or 3rd down. So an immediate and obvious impact on the game with Chin playing in the slot over Godwin. Jeremy Chin's a fantastic athlete. The fact that he could even almost hold up there is remarkable at his size. Jeremy Chin on Chris Godwin in the slot is a mismatch for the Bucs. And it's a mismatch they took advantage of multiple times.
That game, even in a weird way, it kind of almost felt like a MAC championship or a Sun Belt championship. It felt like a playoff game, but it just, maybe not like a true divisional round playoff game, but it did. It felt like the team's throwing some haymakers a little bit, throwing some change ups and everything. It actually had some of those feelings and some of those tense moments.
It's frustrating that for so much of this season, as I thought about the Bucs and I thought about the NFC South and even their potential to make noise in the NFC playoffs, my mind just kept coming back to, well, the Bucs have Tom Brady and Mike Evans. Yeah. Like, it still feels like this is going to be the best team in the division, no matter how uneven and disjointed it's looked over the course of the year. And when we get to the playoffs, if things fall into place, if we see the best version of them, that ceiling can still give somebody a problem when we get to the postseason. And then we went 25 different directions over a 17-week period. And then you get to the final game of the year when they have to get this. And that was the answer. They had Tom Brady and Mike Evans. The best version of them is still potentially dangerous, and they're going to make the playoffs. So no matter how winding the road, we eventually reached the conclusion that I was trying to avoid for most of the year because I felt it wasn't an interesting way to explain things.
No, it's literally what we talked about in the preseason. It was like, well, they feel kind of zombie-ish, but they still have some dudes, especially on defense as well. And there you are. There's Chris Godwin catching another ball over the middle, going for 100 yards. There's Mike Evans running another vertical route for a touchdown. And there's Lenny Fournette tripping and falling for another 8 yards. Like that's what this offense is. And sure enough, here we are, new year, January 1st right now. And this is what they are. We're going into the playoffs. I can't believe it because we even talked about it. It's like, we're not joking. Like, we don't want the Bucs team to playoffs, but it was like, at least the Panthers are interesting because it's like something new to talk about. Yeah. This Bucs team, it's like, we've had this conversation all year. The offense just, it can't get going. It feels like they're running into a wall. Still kind of feels like that, but at least there's some highs now. There's some just looseness and explosiveness. They tied their most explosive plays today, like from the entire season.
Surpassed it.
It's
surpassed it. They have 5 now.
I guess of course it's against the Panthers, who I'm like watching, and I'm like, well, this Panthers defense is going to give them some issues, And it's like, of course, this is what they do. It's
just a perfect storm. It's the issues at corner. Plus, you made the point, getting the offensive line back healthy.
Huge.
Getting both your tackles, even if it's been a down year for Donovan Smith. Donovan Smith is better than left tackle number 3 that they had to deal with against the Cardinals.
Right.
So here we are. The Bucs are in the playoffs, and they'll probably be playing the Cowboys, and we'll see what happens.